He never really questioned something that felt completely normal. Every time discomfort showed up, the solution came from a pill bottle. Headaches, mild anxiety, poor digestion. There was always a quick, ready-made fix. But deep down, there was a quiet contradiction. How can it be normal to depend so much on something external when the body already has built-in systems designed to regulate itself? And this is where most people overlook a simple but powerful idea. Some of the most effective solutions aren't in a pharmacy. They're alive, growing, often just a few steps away. Common, easy-to-grow plants that contain active compounds capable of supporting the digestive, nervous, and even immune systems. The surprising part? Most people have seen these plants before. They just never understood what they were truly capable of. Now here's the part almost nobody talks about. This isn't about rejecting modern medicine. It's about stopping the habit of using advanced solutions for basic imbalances that could be supported naturally, consistently, and intelligently. Because once you understand how to grow, how to use, and how to integrate these plants into your daily life, even a simple home garden stops being a hobby and starts becoming a living support system for your body. And as you go through this, you'll realize something important. These aren't rare or complicated plants. They're easy, beginner-friendly, fast-growing plants that fit perfectly into a home gardening routine. But there's one detail that changes everything. And it's exactly where most people get it wrong. He spent years treating symptoms in isolation, without realizing he was only addressing the surface of deeper imbalances. The approach was always reactive. Discomfort appears, medication follows. But from a physiological standpoint, that rarely resolves the root cause. The human body operates as an integrated system, and many everyday issues, digestive discomfort, mild anxiety, inflammation, are often linked to lifestyle, diet, and the absence of natural bioactive compounds. This is where a home garden stops being decorative and becomes functional. As he began to explore home gardening more intentionally, he noticed consistent patterns. Easy-to-grow plants like mint, rosemary, and lemon balm aren't used across generations by accident. They contain specific compounds, menthol, rosmarinic acid, citral, that interact directly with digestive and nervous system pathways. Unlike isolated interventions, these plants work in synergy with the body, promoting regulation instead of suppression. When grown organically at home, they become continuously available, fresh, and often more bioactive. From that point on, gardening stopped being a hobby and became a strategy. Learning how to grow even in small spaces meant having direct access to functional resources. Whether through water-based setups or regrowing food scraps, he started building a small, sustainable system. And as that system began to take shape, a deeper question naturally emerged. What actually makes a plant medicinal in the first place? He began to realize that a home garden doesn't function as a random collection of plants, but as an integrated, functional system. Each plant plays a role. Some support digestion, others regulate the nervous system, while others contribute to immune balance or inflammation control. When arranged with intention, these plants stop being decorative and start forming a living structure that supports the body. This shift changes the entire logic of home gardening, from random planting to strategic cultivation. In practice, he organized his space like a functional map. In areas with full sunlight, he placed fast-growing plants like basil and rosemary, which require high light exposure to develop their active compounds. In partial shade, he positioned lemon balm and mint, respecting their natural growth patterns. To optimize space, he introduced a water-based setup with green onions and regrown scraps, a simple but efficient solution for small spaces. This type of organization eliminates many common beginner mistakes, such as overwatering, poor placement, and plant competition. Over time, he noticed that even food waste became part of the system. By regrowing scraps like garlic, lettuce bases, and carrot tops, he created a continuous cycle between consumption and cultivation. This not only reduces waste, but increases autonomy within an organic gardening approach. And as this system started to stabilize, a key question naturally surfaced. What truly defines a plant as medicinal within this structure? He realized that calling a plant medicinal isn't based on tradition alone. It's rooted in biochemistry. Plants produce secondary compounds such as essential oils, flavonoids, and alkaloids as part of their survival strategy. These same compounds interact with the human body in measurable ways. For example, citrul in lemon balm influences the central nervous system, while thymol in thyme has antimicrobial properties. Understanding this transforms the idea of a home garden from something decorative into something functionally precise. In practice, he began paying attention not only to the plant itself, but to timing and preparation methods. He noticed that harvesting mint in the morning, after the dew has evaporated, results in higher concentrations of menthol. He also tested preparation techniques: infusion, hot water below boiling, for delicate leaves, and decoction, controlled boiling, for roots like ginger. By applying these methods consistently, he improved the extraction of active compounds and avoided common beginner mistakes, like boiling leaves and losing volatile oils. He also started connecting plant growth conditions with medicinal quality. Easy-to-grow plants cultivated organically, without excessive synthetic inputs, tend to produce more defensive compounds, which are exactly the ones of interest. At the same time, he experimented with water-based setups for quick-access herbs and continued regrowing food scraps to keep the system active. And at that point, a deeper understanding emerged. It's not enough to have access to plants. You need to understand how they interact with the body across different levels. He began to distinguish between two fundamentally different approaches: symptom management and systemic regulation. Conventional medications often work by blocking specific biochemical pathways, for example, inhibiting prostaglandin production to reduce pain. Certain plants, however, when used correctly, act by modulating physiological processes such as digestion, inflammation, and stress response. This doesn't make one approach better than the other, but it highlights how a home garden can function as a continuous support system, especially for mild and recurring imbalances. In practice, he developed simple, repeatable protocols within his home gardening routine. After heavier meals, he used mint or ginger infusions to support digestion. On evenings with higher mental load, he alternated between lemon balm and chamomile. A practical example: 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon balm leaves infused in hot, not boiling water, covered for about 7 minutes, taken 30 minutes before sleep. For mental fatigue, he used rosemary, either as a light infusion or simply by crushing the leaves and inhaling the aroma. These small applications turned easy plants into functional tools. Over time, he noticed that consistency was the key factor. Unlike emergency use, daily repetition, even in small amounts, creates a cumulative effect. To support that, he focused on fast-growing plants to ensure constant availability, used water-based setups for easy access, and regrew food scraps like green onions and garlic. And that's when a new layer of understanding emerged. It wasn't just about reacting to problems anymore. It was about organizing plants based on their function within the body. He realized it didn't make sense to treat all plants the same, since each group acts on different systems in the body. When it comes to the nervous system, certain species contain compounds that reduce neural excitability and promote relaxation. Lavender, chamomile, and lemon balm are classic examples. Their active components, such as linalool, apigenin, and citrul, play a role in modulating stress and mild anxiety. Within a home garden, these plants function as natural regulators of the body's rhythm, especially in fast-paced routines. In practice, he created a simple evening protocol. About 30 to 40 minutes before bedtime, he prepared an infusion using 1 tablespoon of dried chamomile or a handful of fresh lemon balm leaves, using hot water below boiling to preserve volatile compounds. On more stressful days, he combined small amounts of both. Lavender, in addition to light tea use, became part of an aromatic routine. Small sachets near the pillow, or gently rubbing the flowers between his fingers. These simple applications turned easy-to-grow plants into effective tools, even for beginners. In terms of cultivation, he adjusted placement to maximize plant quality. Lemon balm was kept in partial shade with consistently moist soil. Chamomile received softer sunlight, and lavender was placed in well-drained soil with strong light exposure, reflecting its Mediterranean origin. For convenience, he also kept some of these herbs in water-based setups for quick access and continued regrowing useful plants when possible. At this point, he began to understand that calming the body was just one part of the process. The next step was optimizing internal functions like digestion. He began to notice that many everyday discomforts, bloating, gas, mild reflux, that heavy feeling after meals, were directly connected to how well the digestive system was functioning. This is where a specific group of plants became essential: mint, ginger, and boldo. Rather than providing temporary relief, these plants stimulate natural processes such as enzyme secretion and smooth muscle relaxation in the digestive tract. Within a home garden, this group acts almost like a built-in metabolic support system. In practice, he developed simple and repeatable routines. After heavier meals, he used fresh mint, about 5 to 7 leaves in a light infusion, to help reduce gas and abdominal discomfort. Ginger, grown in pots as part of his home gardening setup, was used in small slices infused in hot water to support digestion and reduce mild inflammation. Boldo was used more carefully. Fresh leaves lightly crushed and steeped in room temperature water, avoiding boiling to preserve its properties and prevent excessive bitterness. These small adjustments made a significant difference in effectiveness. From a cultivation standpoint, he also optimized how these plants were grown. Mint was always kept in a container to control its aggressive spread. Ginger was grown in rich, moist soil with partial shade. And boldo was placed in areas with good light and space to expand. To ensure constant availability, he incorporated water-based growing methods and continued regrowing useful scraps, maintaining a continuous cycle. And that's when he realized something important. Beyond solving immediate issues, it was possible to strengthen the body before problems even started. He realized it no longer made sense to act only after discomfort appeared. There was a group of plants that worked proactively, strengthening the body and reducing the likelihood of imbalance. Basil, oregano, and thyme stood out for their concentration of compounds such as eugenol, carvacrol, and thymol, substances with antioxidant, antimicrobial, and mild anti-inflammatory activity. Within a home garden, these plants stop being just culinary herbs and become a continuous layer of physiological support. In practice, he integrated these plants directly into daily meals, which significantly increased their effectiveness. Fresh basil was added to salads, sauces, or even light infusions. Oregano, beyond its culinary use, was prepared as a tea to support respiratory function during mild colds. Thyme was used more strategically, a stronger infusion for sore throat, combined with honey and lemon. This kind of consistent, low-dose use within a home gardening routine creates a cumulative protective effect rather than relying on occasional use. From a cultivation perspective, he optimized conditions to increase the concentration of active compounds. These easy-to-grow plants were placed in full sun with well-drained soil, conditions that naturally stimulate essential oil production. To maintain a continuous supply, he kept regrowing useful plants and used water-based setups for herbs he needed frequently. Over time, it became clear he was building a natural defense system at home. And that's when another realization emerged. Some plants don't just protect, they actively support recovery and regeneration. He began to notice that many persistent discomforts, mild joint pain, skin irritation, chronic fatigue, shared a common factor: low-grade inflammation. At that point, certain plants stopped being supportive and became central to the system. Turmeric, calendula, and arnica contain highly active compounds, such as curcumin and regenerative flavonoids, which directly influence inflammatory pathways. Within a home garden, This group represents a more advanced level of functionality. In practice, he developed specific applications for each one. Turmeric, grown in containers, was used in combination with fat and black pepper, a necessary pairing to increase curcumin bioavailability. A simple example: freshly grated turmeric mixed with olive oil and a pinch of black pepper incorporated into meals. Calendula was used externally as a homemade infused oil. Dried flowers submerged in a carrier oil for several weeks, then applied to minor skin irritations. Arnica was strictly reserved for external use, applied as compresses, respecting its toxicity if ingested. From a cultivation standpoint, these plants required slightly more attention, but still fit within an accessible system when properly managed. Turmeric was grown in rich, moist soil with partial shade, calendula in full sun to encourage flowering, and arnica in balanced conditions without excess moisture. To maintain productivity, he followed organic practices and continued regrowing useful plants whenever possible. And that's when a critical realization emerged. Many people don't lose results in cultivation. They lose it in how they use these plants. He realized that having a well-structured home garden meant very little if the plants were being used incorrectly. Many of the most common mistakes don't happen during cultivation, but during preparation and storage. One of the biggest issues is improper boiling of delicate leaves. When mint, lemon balm, or basil are boiled directly, their essential oils, the very compounds responsible for their effects, evaporate. The result is a weaker, less effective preparation, even when using high-quality plants. In practice, he completely adjusted his preparation methods. For leaves and flowers, he switched to infusion, water heated just below boiling, around 80-90 degrees Celsius, poured over the plant material and covered for 5 to 10 minutes. For roots like ginger and turmeric, he used decoction, controlled boiling to extract more stable compounds. Another critical correction involved drying. Instead of exposing herbs to direct sunlight, he began drying them in shaded, well-ventilated environments, preserving their active compounds more effectively, a key principle in organic gardening. He also noticed that storage conditions directly affected potency. He began using dark glass containers kept away from heat and light to prevent degradation. For daily use, he kept fresh herbs accessible through water-based setups and continued regrowing useful plants to maintain a continuous supply. These simple changes significantly improved the system's efficiency, and that's when a broader understanding emerged. The real value of this process wasn't just in using plants, but in reshaping his entire relationship with the environment around him. He eventually realized that building a home garden with intention led to something far beyond practical use. The process began to reshape how he perceived time, care, and even consumption. Watching easy-to-grow plants develop, from mint sprouting to turmeric maturing in the soil, created a deeper awareness of natural cycles. This awareness influenced his routine, making the use of plants more consistent and intentional rather than reactive. In practice, he fully integrated cultivation into daily life. While preparing meals, he would harvest fresh herbs directly from his organic garden. When mild discomfort appeared, he already knew which plant to use and how to prepare it correctly. Even simple actions, like maintaining a water-based setup with green onions or regrowing garlic and lettuce, became part of a functional system. This integration reduces external dependency and builds real autonomy, something that rarely comes from relying solely on ready-made solutions. Over time, it became clear that the greatest benefit wasn't just physical, it was structural. He wasn't simply using plants. He was redefining his relationship with health, food, and environment. And once that shift is established, it naturally leads to a new level. Understanding how to make this system more efficient, scalable, and adaptable to different spaces and lifestyles. In the end, he realized something that changes everything. It's not about replacing the pharmacy overnight, it's about stopping the habit of ignoring simple resources that are already within reach. When you build a home garden with intention, learn how to grow properly, and use these plants consistently, you're not just growing herbs. you're building a real support system for your body. And over time, that naturally reduces unnecessary dependency and increases your autonomy in a quiet but powerful way. And the best part is, you don't have to start big. 1 mint plant, 1 rosemary, 1 lemon balm. Easy to grow plants that fit into any home gardening setup, even if it's just a small water-based system or regrowing scraps that would otherwise be thrown away. The key isn't quantity, it's consistency. Because small actions, repeated daily, are what truly transform your routine. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these plants are you going to start with? Leave a comment below. I'd really like to know where you're starting. And if this content helped you see gardening differently, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That tells me you want more content like this, deeper, more practical, and actually useful in real life. And in the next video, I'll show you something most people never learn: how to build a complete home garden even with limited space, and without spending much at all.